And hey everyone, welcome back. This is Elliot Serrano of the Comics Waiting Room with my buddy Jose Melendez. And thanks for joining us again here at the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. And what can I say? It's been kind of a slow week. And because it's been slow and, you know, everything's going on in New York with the New York Comic Con and, well...
Yeah, just...
We're not there.
We're not there.
We're not there, and you know we're just two guys, so we really can't give you up to the minute stuff. So we're gonna go off the beaten path and talk about some other things. Maybe lay off Marvel for a bit. You're not happy with that?
No.
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 All right. Okay.
There's always something to rip on Marvel.
Something, yeah.
But a lot of books haven't been coming out the last couple weeks, so unfortunately there's not as much new, fresh material. Though we can always rip on the stuff that we didn't talk about last time, but Bendis being misogynist, we can always rip on him for that.
That's true. There is we can talk a little bit about that. You introduced me to the occasional superheroine.
Blogspot.com.
And she's great. So we're going to talk a little bit about her or them, and we'll see what happens. Again, this thing isn't scripted at all, so we'll see what goes.
Maybe you win, maybe you lose. Most likely, we're all gonna lose. This might be boring as hell. So,
you can let us know in your comments. So, stick around, and we'll be back after the intro. And we're back, and thanks for joining us again. Okay, slow week, but a couple things of note did happen that we'll jump right into. And we know it's been hammered to death, but we'll talk about...
Just briefly
about the apparent misogyny of Dr. Doom in Mighty Avengers.
Well, but then you get your own brand of misogyny in New Avengers a few months ago. And I mean, that was the big thing, was that I remember when this book came out, a lot of people were crying misogyny, like, oh my god, you know, because the Hood shows up and
shows up in Tigra's apartment and basically beats the crap out of her while having it videotaped.
With Jigsaw. Well, yeah, because, you know, she comes in and then he's beating her, and then...
And I did find that really disturbing myself, because and I guess that's what Brian Bendis was going for, because you hear about that sort of stuff actually going on in real life, where kids are, you know, beating up people and they're recording themselves doing it.
Right.
And then those tapes are later on used in court to convict them. But
well, yeah, and then, you know, you get to, you know, beating up, and then you find out, like, off panel that what's going on, Jigsaw is actually videotaping it, and then they're rewatching it over and over again at the villain's...
in the villain's lair. Yeah.
And you know what? I really hate to say this, but when I reread this after last time after we done the tape, I went back and reread these two issues, and man, I really hate to say this, but this whole villains thing, when they're like talking about, like, oh yeah, you know, they're all watching it, kind of subtly reminds me that Marvel is a boys' club. And we were talking about this. We were talking about how hard it is for women, and Marvel doesn't have any creative women working there, and how hard it is to break into maybe Marvel, because Marvel is the big boys' club. And this panel of them all watching it as this woman gets beaten up, I don't know if there is some kind of corollary or parallel to draw with the Marvel office is, but that actually kind of makes me feel even more sick about it.
Well, I mean,
obviously I don't think that's how it really is. But after our little talk,
well, you don't think that they take women and beat them up, and then in the Marvel offices, all the guys stand around and watch them.
No, but remember when Bendis was arguing back and forth with Gail Simone about stuff, and how, you know, how she was calling Marvel a boys' club and stuff like that. Well, this kind of could be drawn to there, like they're all reading the blogs posted on the internet.
Right.
And back and forth, like, oh, what is she saying? She doesn't know what she's talking about, and they're all laughing at her.
Right.
Behind, you know, and that's kind of what I get from it. But then again, I read a little bit too much into things sometimes.
Well, I mean, while I can see that sort of symbolism taking place, or that it could be interpreted that way, again, I interpret that as Bendis drawing from real life, and that sort of stuff has happened. You've had criminals reporting their crimes.
Well, we just had the big tape that came out like a couple weeks ago of those cheerleaders beating up one of their own.
Beating up a kid. So but it happens, but and then he's applying that to supervillains to make them seem more realistic.
Right. But for villains, like, it's, to me, this is like the easy way of writing a villain. Just make him do something really despicable or say something really despicable, and there's no creativity whatsoever in it. You have him beat a woman, all right, he's a villain. We know he's a bad guy. Instead of, like, you know, trying to do something clever or have something, you know, kind of like an anti-hero quality to villains sometimes. And the Doctor Doom thing is the same thing. Doctor Doom, probably the most intelligent of all the villains, and he's stooping to calling Ms. Marvel a fat cow. Hold on, I want to read this verbatim. Of course, again, people have talked about this. We're getting this out late just because I was reading these columns that people were saying about this and made me reread these. But, you know, when Dr. Doom is saying, so shut your cow mouth or I'll remove your face by hand before I stop your whore's heart. Okay? Isolated incident of maybe misogyny, people were, and Bendis explained it, and all right, fine. But this was like 6 months ago in New Avengers. And now, last month, in Mighty Avengers, same thing happened, except it's verbal abuse and not physical abuse.
But it's a villain again.
It's a villain again, but it's so out of character for Doctor Doom to lower himself to that extent. It is. And this is the whole problem I had with Civil War, was that when you read Civil War, all of the characters all had their parts to play, so the words coming out of their mouths didn't really seem like their own. You know, just because they had a role to play in the storyline, so we're going to manipulate the way they really think or how they talked in the past just to make them fit that role. And
but in defense, I'm playing the advocate here, because I myself was a little taken aback by that too. Although at the same time I thought it was a little funny. But and not to say that made it right, but wasn't Dr. Doom in Fantastic Four during the Mark Waid run, didn't Dr. Doom track down a long-lost love of his, thinking that he wants to find her so he can reconcile with her, but only so that he could kill her and then take her body and turn it into armor made of human skin? Yeah. I mean, that is the ultimate misogyny right there.
No, I agree with that.
You know, and I didn't hear, I don't remember as much negative backlash with that story, and I remember Mark Waid coming out and saying, come on, the guy went out and he turned a former love into his armor.
Right, but, you know, that didn't...